Alrighty, good evening out there in the internet. It's Scuba and the Rye.
Rye guy, it is.
And we're doing this is our 25th episode of the Scuba and the Rye show, presented by Scuba Studio. And tonight we're doing it live. We're finally streaming.
We're going live. You can see this face right here. You might make or break something. Mostly break something, according to Saladin.
And
only a few mirrors.
Mirrors, yes.
So y'all listen. If you've listened to the podcast in the past and whatnot, you know we've been doing some testing, and now we're sitting here. We're doing this for live. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. Trying to get on Mixer, but it seems we're having some bugs with that. So we'll investigate and figure that out later. Starting off, we're going to do a shout out to Sirenscape for providing these background sounds you hear in this wonderful tavern and somewhere in the world, because you know that's how we roll. But go to Sirenscape to check out some of their soundboards. Take your game to the next level. What else? It's got that whole adrenaline going, you know. Just
it's like share.
Yeah, let's do it all. Oh gosh.
Lightning bugs. Without the bat going towards bat, because they used to.
Oh yeah, so let's just kind of kick into it. So some announcements real quick. We started doing a new short show for the Mandalorian episodes, similar to other shows. We're basically going to talk about and give our opinions and reviews on each episode of the Mandalorian as it comes out. First episode in that series just went live on YouTube today, so go to Scuba Studio on YouTube and check that out. And also, as a bonus, last week we've been doing this recording of our sessions for a couple of weeks now to kind of work out the kinks and build up on our streaming to stream. Well, last week's episode 24, the video for that has gone up on the Scuba Studio YouTube page.
Check it out,
so, gonna have to check that out. Check that out. Tell us what you think. Kind of moving into that is, you know, broadening how we're doing this. And with that, do you have any announcements, studio-wise, show-wise?
No. Just spoke the rhythms.
Spoke the rhythms? And the blues?
No blues, hopefully. More rhythms.
Okay. So, yeah. I see what you're doing there.
Yes.
I see what you're doing there. Yeah. Okay. We'll see if we can drop those beats later. Alrighty. We're going to move. Next up, we're going to go ahead and just do our What's Up section. That's supposed to be a section that's roughly a fictitious 5 minutes each to talk about what we've been up to for the last week.
Whatever those 5 minutes turn into.
Yeah, depending on what's been happening. So, yeah. So much, just that energy height, you know? It's like trying to get this going. Saladin's been working on a new server for us. And we're testing that, so we're seeing how that goes. I can see he's in the corner of my eye. He's pulling his hair out. So, Saladin, we love you, man.
Yeah. Get going.
But let's see. This weekend was D&D games, airsoft games, and hanging out with friends and having a good time. What about you? How was your...
I did some hanging.
Did some hanging
there. So there was another Dirty 30 on Saturday evening. Which
Good
was a
Lord.
Will turned
Was
30.
that like the 6th birthday party you've been to?
Yeah, we got to party it up. Everybody's turning 30.
Oh, and I'm drinking ice and Mountain Dew. Thank you.
Orange drink, people.
Got to do that orange drink.
Always. You get orange.
Oh, and yeah. And Saladin with his half and half tea. Obviously, we don't want to mess with some branding here.
Yeah.
Got to keep keep conservative to our branding.
Keep it on the download. But yeah,
You said the MD word.
I said it. Did I show a logo? No.
So thank you to all that support.
6 packs of sodas are allowed to be donated.
Please. Caffeination needed.
Alrighty.
But yeah,
Another Dirty 30.
Dirty. So another good friend turned 30. And then on Sunday went to a baptism.
A baptism?
For my girlfriend's nephew. She's actually the godmother.
Oh, congratulations.
Yay. What? Oh, 20th godchild. So she's a godmother for a lot of people.
I see. You're living up to your name, Ghost.
Yeah. She's all over the place, littered, you know. But other than that, the big thing was went and wrote my final paper.
Your final paper?
For at least this degree.
Ah.
So that's done. Well, the rough draft was done. But, yep. Other than that, just another weekend.
We're going to move on to our first major piece of this, and that is our review segment.
Yeah, my movie review.
So to let everybody know, Rye Guy here has a website called ryreviews.com, all one word.
Yep.
And up there he's been posting his various movie reviews for the movies he watches. He's quite the critic.
Yeah, I have a lot of film reviews and cataloged on there, so if you wanted to go back and read some of them, you can. But for today, the review that I did was for the new James Mangold film Ford versus Ferrari.
All right, let's move over to a quiet corner here in our in the tavern so we can focus in on this
intimate with some
racing.
automobiles, you know, vroom vroom.
Especially the old school races, where you know.
So that's definitely what you could say about this because it does. Like I said, the film is Ford versus Ferrari, directed by James Mangold, and it does focus on a feud from the 1960s. Two big manufacturers back then, or still to this day, but especially back in the 1960s.
All right, so yeah, this was we got Matt Damon,
yep,
and we got Christian Bale.
Yep, Matt Damon plays Carroll Shelby. Anybody that recognizes that name, his name is recognizable with the performance racing for Ford.
Okay, all right.
And Christian Bale plays the driver that drives for Carroll Shelby, Ken Miles.
All right, and so the whole premise of this is Ford builds a race car to compete in the 24-hour Le Mans in Europe, and so far Ferrari has been the reigning champ.
Yeah, at this point, in the film, they've won 5 straight Le Mans for 5 straight years. So, what happens is that Ford gets entangled with Ferrari, and push comes to shove, and the head of the Ford Motor Company decides they're going to build their own supercar to beat them.
Okay.
So that leads to the Ford Motor Company recruiting Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles into the fray, and the film focuses on their journey on building this car.
All right. So what do we think of it? I mean, this is a semi-period piece.
It's a semi-period piece, but it's mostly a true story film that focuses on the characters. And what makes the film such an amazing journey is the fact that the director James Mangold allows the story to breathe through its characters, not just the main two that are led by Matt Damon and Christian Bale, but all the ancillary characters around them. Like, what I appreciate in films is that you get engrossed into the story and the journey, no matter if it's an epic like Lord of the Rings or a spy thriller like James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
What makes this story great is that journey as you watch these two friends who come in conflict because of how they want to deal with the corporate world with Ford, but also have this idea of making this vehicle to beat Ferrari.
Okay.
So you get into the nitty-gritty of watching them build, prepare, test, come into conflict with the bureaucracy that is the automobile industry. but finding a way to stay true to themselves while building this car for a corporation.
Okay.
So
what? Any shortcomings in the
No.
film, or is it just pretty much a
No.
solid?
what happens in this film is that it's a slow build, but you get so enraptured by every little detail that you just get lost in the journey.
All right.
It's true escapism at its finest, but what makes this one pristine is that it's the simplicity of the story. It's just a straightforward, these two friends building this car, and you just get lost in the fray with them.
Okay.
And then it all builds up to the actual 24-hour Le Mans, where you get to see the adrenaline rush of the action and all the intensity that involves driving the vehicle for 24 straight hours. So there's a lot of mishaps that happen and stuff. It's not really a spoiler. It's kind of funny. Like when they start the race, he can't shut the door on the first lap. So it's kind of disjointed on how it starts, but it's just an amazing... It culminates an amazing journey of building this car because it highlights the two friends. It creates a very strong, authentic appeal. And it focuses on that automobile was in 1960, so it allows the story to become a character in itself.
Okay.
So you are living and breathing in a world. It's like a day in the life, but in a more genuine way.
All right. So what's our final rating on this?
Final rating on this is that very strong performances from Matt Damon, Christian Bale. So I should see them getting some kind of nominations down the road. A great direction by James Mangold. With, if you know his name, he did do Logan, Walk the Line, some of those films, and just an overall just amazing journey. And it's the rarity when I score something this, and I've only done it twice this year, and it's got a 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Now,
out of
5 out of
perfect
5 is
score.
like perfect. This should be. We should see some. In the past, your 5 out of 5s have all gotten some kind of nod from the Academy.
They've all gotten some kind of nod, some kind of recognition on the award circuit, and this one is touching up there because it's getting a lot of praises across the board from the direction and then acting, and just capturing a true story element, but allowing the story to just be itself. All
right, so we have that review, and got a couple of news pieces here to talk about that's connected to this, and that's looking at last week's box office.
Oh, yes.
So, Ford vs. Ferrari wasn't the only film to come out this past weekend, right?
So another big, well-known name, but from the TV world, is another reboot of Charlie's Angels.
This has got to be, what, the third time they've done that?
It's the third movie.
Oh, but twice they've tried to boot.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Charlie's Angels, and how did that end?
Charlie's Angels bombed at the box office this weekend.
All right, so put in context, Ford vs. Ferrari took over $30 million in domestically for the opening weekend.
31 million and 52.4 globally, which is good for a film of this nature.
Oh yeah. Now, Charlie's Angels only pulled in just over $8 million.
Just $8 million domestically.
So is it just kind of fatigue, or is it just didn't weigh up? Because I mean, Midway was the number 2 slot. This one was barely the number 3 slot.
Oh yeah, so it could be a mixture of just the popularity of the series and just the all the other stuff that was released in the box weekend. Just to add some numbers to that disastrous result is that the budget for Charlie's Angels was between 48 and 55 million. So you really.
It's got a long way to go to make profitability.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Obviously, we're doing our growing pains here because this is getting the set straight. But we're gonna get better, and hopefully, if you guys keep tuning in, we'll get better. I'm pretending there are people watching.
There are.
Oh, sweet!
Networking has worked. We have one person in YouTube so far, and we have at least 2 into.
Sweet.
And we have
What
2.
up?
Thank you.
Thank you to all that are
Twitch.
watching.
Sweet. Spread the word. Pass it around. We're going to be doing this as often as pretty much. This is going to be our new standard. We're going to be
Going live with this pretty face. Yeah.
Alrighty.
It made somebody happy. Yes.
Remember, this is live.
I know. So just get that stage going and just kind of roll with it.
Just roll with it. Scuba.
Alrighty,
Just roll
so
Not literally.
let's just get in the mud.
I did that over the weekend, thanks. But we'll get into that.
Rolling in the mud?
Yeah, it was muddy as all get out at the field this past weekend.
Why would you roll in the mud? You're not supposed to do that.
Dude, I left there with
All right. Off track.
Yeah, it's because you again.
You kind of pulled him in on that.
I know, right? It just pushed me through the mud and everything.
See, look.
Pretty face Ryan.
Oh,
All right.
yeah.
All right. So back onto this. Do you have any? Do we have any TV reviews or TV commentary?
Continue to watch Watchmen.
Okay.
It's getting really, really good, and they're starting to bring in the elements of the comics a lot more. So each episode they've been just kind of touching, and then eventually now this last episode it culminated with bringing in a lot more of the lore.
Oh, sweet.
So it exposed the connection between where the story is taking place right now to the events that happen in New York City. So now everything is starting to
really take off.
Oh yeah. So other than that, just continuing Peaky Blinders on Netflix, and one of my shows started back up, The Crown, season 3. So that one focuses on Queen Elizabeth.
Oh yeah. See, I'm still working through Badlands because the last part of final season of Badlands went on Netflix, and as well as Jack Ryan.
Oh yeah, I did finish season 2 of Jack Ryan.
Oh sweet. Okay.
So I definitely want to see. I'm gonna wait till you finish season 2 so we can both talk about it.
Yes, we'll definitely do that.
I can just give you touch of the surface. It does a whole different twist in the first season.
Oh yeah. So I just finished episode 3 at the gym today.
Okay.
Alrighty. Right. With that, we're gonna move over to our next standardized segment, and that is what we call State of Game.
Super State.
All right, State of Game is a section where we talk about all the various games we were playing, whether it's a tabletop game, a video game, an airsoft game. It's a game we play. Board game, RPG, all kinds of stuff. So, and we're going to kick that off because we're going to work on expanding it, and we're going to talk about, we got a new story, a media-related story for State of Game, and that is, a little while ago we talked about how this month marks the 15-year anniversary for Halo 2.
Oh, yes.
Well, as a follow-up to that, you found there's an article, it's like we talk about how November 2004 seems to be pretty much infamous as far as video game releases that people just talk about. And talking about how just this list of games that came out in November of 2004, we got the original OG World of Warcraft, Half-Life 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, of course Halo 2.
The best game ever.
Counter-Strike, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, okay. Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap, Bejeweled, EverQuest 2, Jake 3, Metroid Prime 2, Need for Speed Underground, and Nintendo 64 on the DS. I mean, that's a lot of major titles that for people we know, and just as far as setting bars in gaming.
Oh yeah, it just highlights the one thing about this list that it highlights is the variety.
Oh yeah.
Is the variety. Like, you can just knock it out the park as being the best just by the first 4 that you said. World of Warcraft, Half-Life 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, and Halo 2. That alone just knocks out the park. And then you go down through the list, and it just builds on that variety of how the gaming world has various different kind of people out there.
Yeah. And I know a lot of these, and I have several. I have the majority of these. I know. I'm a recovering WoW player.
Recovering WoW player?
Yep. Recovering WoW player.
You still need help with that? Saladin doesn't look pleased.
I am. I stopped playing right around the time Cataclysm came out.
I continued on.
I know.
You lived the life.
All the way through to Classic, the re-release of Classic WoW.
We have input from Volgraza.
Hey, Graza, what's up?
He said Half-Life Alyx, which is a VR game in Half-Life universe. There was an announcement was released today.
Oh, wow. So, I'll have to get some eyes on that somehow.
He is our VR person.
Oh, yeah.
He has a true VR headset and everything. I told him he has to come and visit me with it, but he hasn't done that yet.
Keep waiting, Saladin. I'm sure he'll make a point to come and let you play with his headset.
Play with it, turn it, twist it. Make it sound good.
All we get back from Volgraza is OOF.
Touch and play.
Alrighty, so
right, next,
video games we're playing. I know you're playing one right now that I have to wait.
Oh yeah, you have to wait, but you like subtly hinted that you want to borrow it.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I did get it for the Xbox.
Yeah.
So,
suspense is killing you, I'm sure.
The build up and the suspension, but outside of the typical games that I've been playing, Borderlands 3, Call of Duty, and Division 2, I did sneak in a fourth game on that list.
Oh,
and
really?
That would be the new Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It literally just came out Friday, and I've been...
How much time have you sunk into it?
I've been losing some sleep over it because it's that much of... That game is just amazing.
All right, well, as you said, once you get done with it, I'll give it a shot, and then we can talk about it.
Just a couple tidbits about the game. It is a pseudo-open world action-adventure. It does have some RPG elements because you start from the beginning... with no real understanding of the Force and your powers, and you're slowly revealing it. You play a character by the name of Cal Keslis, and he's on the run. So he's on the run because he had to use his powers to save a friend. Mm-hmm. So now the
Imperials are coming after him.
Yeah, they're coming after him. So they're sending people after him.
That'll be fun.
But the gameplay is, which I told you before when I first started the game, it is hard. And I'm on the normal difficulty. So there were a lot of things out in the video game world said that this was very Dark Souls-ish, kind of game, and it pretty much is.
Oh, really?
The enemy types they adapt to your fighting style. So even if you go and die and you think you might figure it out, they'll come back with you with a different tactic. So you got to be able to dodge, parry, and attack at the same time.
That sounds really exciting.
Yes. It really makes you have to think and know how to counter properly.
And considering the studio that did this, Respawn, so yeah. So we'll have to stay tuned to see how that goes.
Oh, more to come.
More to come? What about Borderlands 3? You get anywhere else with that? Or is it all time has been in the galaxy far, far away?
Well, this last weekend has all been in the galaxy far, far away. But I'm kind of dancing around the last mission in Borderlands 3. Because what I like to do is when I get to the last mission, I like to be a completionist and do everything else around. So
when you're done, you can just take the disc out, put it in the shelf, put it in the drawer, and just let it collect dust.
Or somebody will ask me and be like, "Can I borrow it, Ryan?" And then it'd be like, "Okay."
Yeah. Alrighty. Anything else? So that's our games. I've got some D&D updates.
What we got on the dice?
Your favorite group, man. Agents of Short.
Short people.
Oh, no. That's next weekend.
Oh. You cut me off at the legs.
No, this is one of the players is in Agents of Short is also in this one. This is the group that is started out with some friends I met at the Airsoft field. So we call this the Airsoft D&D group. And, so when we last saw them, they were in the city of Neverwinter. And they had taken a side quest to go and ended up claiming a mirror that had been corrupted by Medusa.
So this is the one where they claimed a hold of a bar.
Yes, the Rusted Tusk Tavern in Neverwinter. So fleshed out the tavern.
Okay.
It's 3 floors above ground, and it's got 2-floor basement. Set it up standard fare. And the party then has decided to kind of consolidate the ownership. Our dude has happened to make inroads with the local Thieves Guild and the local Zanitarium faction to get in good with them and establish his control on the city to start, making profit.
Okay.
And the party then was sitting there deciding what they wanted to do next. So they had a couple of plot threads, stuff for Storm King's Thunder, continuing Mines of Feller, and then a couple other. Then it was, okay, do we want to start traveling south? And with traveling south, it was, do they want to go all the way down to Baldur's Gate, or do they want to go to Waterdeep? Well, apparently they opted to take the treasure hunters wanted job for going into Undermountain to hunt treasure. And then it was, okay, how are they going to start traveling south? So then it was like, do they take a ship? Do they wander on their own? Well, they received a letter.
Okay.
Asking that they accompany this caravan of workers down to Luskin. And the workers are going to start putting in a lightning rail, because in my little world that I'm working on, Eberron Tech has moved into Faerun, so we're just having this lightning rail connect Luskin to Waterdeep.
Okay.
But the letter says, hey, when you get to Luskin, go over to One-Eyed Jack's and inquire about payment. So they started their trek down, and of course they did some shopping and stuff. So it was a session that was mostly shopping and them debating what it is they want to do next.
Okay.
But getting on the road, they come across a pair of were-tigers, and they dispatch.
Doesn't sound very appealing.
They dispatch one of them fairly quickly. The other one, dude's like, I want to stick its head in my backpack. Why? Oh, that's where the mirror is. Yes.
Okay.
So I swear it was like strength check, strength check, strength check. Could not get it to happen until Saladin's character comes into the fray and assists, and they get it in. And at first, they don't quite get it, and then finally, the were-tiger fails a saving throw and is turned to stone. So now, dude has a third gargoyle minion.
Brute force to get it in that backpack, I guess.
Oh yeah, it was a grapple. It took several tries. I mean, it was like every time dude thought he had it, it was like, no.
We did 8 rounds, and it took 9 rounds to get everything in. The other one was dispatched in what, 2 rounds?
No, it took about 4 rounds, because only a few of you had magical weapons that could cause damage. So that was fun. So next time that group will get together will be in January, and we're gonna look at maybe streaming the audio via Discord. And I can't see the chat, so I'm waiting. I'm expecting Saladin to tell me something goofy.
Oh yeah.
Nope, I'm moving that away so you don't look at the TV.
Mm-hmm.
Stop looking at the TV.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was safe to put it up there.
Uh-huh.
If anybody's noticing and he turns the wrong direction, he's looking at a TV that has all my monitoring on it that he's not supposed to be looking at.
Well, that's how we can tell, make sure we're on track.
Trackstar.
Speaking of on track and off track and all off the rails, I've got a field report from Saturday's gameplay at Balhack Airsoft.
What went down at the airsoft field?
Well,
it looked interesting on the show notes.
Yes, well, okay, so the weekend was cold and overcast.
Oh, yeah. It was
and kind of rainy. But you know what? It was a great day to play airsoft. Right? So I got 2 sections here we'll go over, and that's there was an attack and defend game, which this is always something that's typically done right before lunch. And this is where we get through our morning warm-ups, and now we're going full out, a full field. Well, the GA decided to come up with a couple of twists for this attack and defend. So our defenders. All right, our defenders who are wearing red tape had 2 high-value targets.
Okay.
Right, and the high-value targets were in the town, and they could not leave the town. Right, okay. So they had to stay in the town. The defenders could respawn from the LZ and then start in the town. The attacking team started at the halfback bunker and either spawned from the halfback or the bat house. Their objective was to get the 2 HVTs and extract them to the bat house. The defenders were trying to keep the HVTs in the town, and they had a 35-minute timer. Okay. If they were able to keep them in there for 35 minutes, then they could extract them to the LZ and potentially win the match.
Okay.
So we set the timer, and then everything goes. And 7 minutes before the timer runs out, the attackers find both HVTs and extract them to the bat house. Now, typically in this fashion, this would be about the time the game ends. And, everybody's kind of, what do we do? Well, here's where an audible was called, and it was, all right, all the attackers had to go into the tower and hold the tower for 10 minutes. So we're effectively flipping the roles. The attackers are now defending, and the defenders are now attacking. And overall gameplay for that was really fun, and it seemed like a lot of people were really more engaged, because some of the attack and defense is like the defenders is like prevent the attackers from getting this object, and then the attackers get the object and move it to a thing, and it's like, okay, so it's not really, sometimes it doesn't feel like there's a lot of investment. However, in this one, because not only were there 2 HVTs they had to hide and protect, and then it was, okay, now we're going to attack the attackers. Everybody was a lot more involved. So it was really fun there. Then we do lunch, and then we do this scenario game in the afternoon. And this is another one of those where we had a major twist in the layout.
A twist. Yes.
So typically with a scenario, most scenarios are a point control setup. Okay. Here are 3 points. Whichever team has the most points at index wins the match. This time we only had 1 point and 3 teams. First team started at what we call the Cannibal Village. Another team started at the LZ. Each of those teams was about 15 to 17 people. Then there was a third team, which was only about 7 or 8 people. They started in the halfback bunker. And their respawn was in a place called the Kingdom, which is the farthest north in the field. These other 2 spots are southeast, southwest. The objective is to hold the halfback bunker. So this insurgent team, for lack of a better description, started in the bunker. It was just to kind of harass and prevent the other teams from taking it. And full field again. Everybody were doing this. This game went on, and the halfback bunker changed ownership at least 4 times. And us marshals and the GA, we actually rotated in a loop, watching the gameplay go on. But everybody, even though it was rainy and cold, and everybody had a good time, it was a great attitude. So it was a lot of interesting stuff. And I have video footage of that I'm going to be looking through and editing for Scuba Cam, which will be, as soon as I get that out, that'll be basically from an observer watching how these games go. Because you see a lot of videos where it's like, here's a kind of a POV shot of a person going through, which are great shots, don't get me wrong. But I'm kind of thinking more of an observer track to kind of see what I would see, or what marshals see as the gameplay goes. So that should be a lot of fun. I've got got video to edit, so stay tuned for that. And with that, anything else from State of Game from the crew?
Any games?
Oh, sorry.
Saladin, you want to talk about anything in your State of Game option?
Actually, the Space Engineers that we've been doing recently, we actually changed the server over to a new wrapper, if you want it.
Like a candy wrapper?
Kind of. Basically, a wrapper it controls the server. So you have the server, and then this wrapper goes over top, which does all the commands.
I was trying to make a joke. He just didn't grab that.
I'm ignoring it. But, no, with that, less crashing. It hasn't restarted yet, so, I mean, it's working pretty good. My other person, my co-worker with me, says,
let's see, we need a ticker that says how many times salad and face palms. 1, 2, 3. Oh, the salad and cam.
Yeah, Mr. Ballog appreciates it. But anyway, with that, the server is actually running pretty good, and here hopefully soon we will be doing a public server for Space Engineers for anybody that wants to join with a few rules and stipulations. But,
of course.
Is there a limit on how many people would join or can join in that
currently
public?
the only limits are with the server itself.
Okay.
Not with my server, but with Space Engineers, because that's limited to 16 people at a time.
Per server?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a way to get it bumped up, but it's not advisable.
Okay. Yeah, I guess on that, I finally got back onto a PC.
You did tell me that.
I know. It's like, so it's got a PC for the kids, thanks to my dad, which was real nice of him. Well, finally got a working setup while I'm working on the desk build, and then sat there and got it up and got through all the settings, and first thing I did was download Steam and download the Blizzard.
The most important apps you need.
I may be a recovering WoW player, but doesn't mean I haven't given up on that stuff.
Well, there's also Diablo.
Yes. And by three they came.
Yes. And number 4 is coming.
Yeah, I can't wait to check that out. Alrighty. State of game is done. I think we can move on to our next stuff. And this one we're actually gonna chat some news and just kind of a discussionary topic.
Oh yeah, I did bring up the idea to you to talk about this because it gives us a week from out it being released. Mm-hmm. So I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about Disney Plus.
Oh yeah, let's talk Disney Plus. It's been out for a week. I'm sure a lot of us have. I know I definitely have, and you have, and I'm sure a lot of people have. I mean, come on, all the buzz for The Mandalorian and all the other stuff, but it seems like it's been a kind of a rocky start in some respects.
Oh yeah, outside of the fact that nobody could probably log in on the first day, but that's typical of any new service.
I imagine that was load balancing more than anything else.
But like I could log in from the website, but I couldn't log in from the app. But eventually it worked out.
Oh yeah, like I did my phone setup, my Apple TV setup, and then went to do the Xbox setup, and it didn't quite load right. And then that evening, my wife was like, "I can't get it to work on my iPad," and we literally keyed in the password, character for character, and it wouldn't let it. But I could log in I was logged in just fine.
Yeah, it was very strange, but eventually.
So then it's like, okay, for our nostalgic, looking through the various series, and it's like I know, and we have a couple articles to validate this.
Oh yes, there's
and that is, some of these shows, especially, it seems like all the ones that were released in the early and mid '90s are all out of order from their air date, and that to me is quite frustrating.
Oh yeah, so it's been reported that a lot of the shows are not in sequential order, and they're all out of pieces. Like example, the X-Men animated series, the first 2 seasons are in order, but once you get to season 3, all of the sagas are out of order.
Well, I noticed that with DuckTales and Darkwing and all of the Disney afternoon block, because every one of those shows has a definitive pilot that sets up the world. And in all of those, it's somewhere else throughout the first season. It's really frustrating.
So it seems like a lot of people are having to go to, like online to figure out the orders after a certain amount of seasons.
Oh yeah, like go to Wikipedia and watch the air date, and then find each episode. Also, it looks like there are episodes missing.
Oh yeah.
I know there were, in the article, one of the articles you'd pulled, it was you came across, it was like Darkwing Duck has missing episodes, and several of the other ones. So it's like,
Well, they want to get people in, and they don't want to be misstepping over some of these shows, because a lot of people have been looking forward to getting access to like the old X-Men and the Spider-Man series. So if they're out of order or missing stuff, you're just gonna anger the fans.
Oh yeah, like I really loved going into Spider-Man, and the first episode is Sins of the Father, Chapter 10.
Yeah.
Really? No setup for any of the other stuff.
Just fall right in.
Right into the last, one of the last storylines of the whole series.
Oh yeah.
So, what are some positive things from Disney Plus?
Some of the positive things is that nostalgia effect, because a lot of when you get onto it, their interface is pretty well done. They break it up between all the different sections: Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic. And then when you dive deep further into it, you start to see that they have literally opened up the vault. Especially, I like a lot of the classic Disney films, animated stuff is there. But most importantly, at least for geeks like us, the Marvel section, having all those old cartoons all the way back to the earliest Spider-Man shows, availability, just wet your whistle when it has that nostalgia purpose.
One of the things I actually don't like about the interface is, say you start watching a show.
Yeah.
And then you want to go back to it. There's no continue watching section.
Yeah. They did say they plan on bringing it sooner than later, but that is the one thing I did notice is that going from device to device, it doesn't save where you left off. So say like you log
I would argue that one, because I actually got a pretty good case point.
Well, when I went from the Fire Stick to my phone, I had to restart the episode.
Oh, well, when I started watching something on my phone, I went to on the Apple TV, and it picked up where it left off. I actually have been working my way through the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. It's like I'm on the last one now. But when I was watching World's... Is it World's End? Yeah, it was World's End. I watched half of it in here, in this room on my Xbox in here. Watched one day, and then watched the other half the following day out on the Apple TV, and it was pretty much right where I left off.
Yeah.
So
it could be just issues with certain devices.
Or it could also be I'm thinking I'm gonna chalk it a lot of it up to load balancing, because that's what it feels like. Because there are also people. There have been many reports about people's stuff getting hacked and being sold on the dark web.
Oh yeah.
So I think this is growing pains, and I think this is a load balancing issue.
Yeah, but just like I said, the big thing is that nostalgia factor, and the fact that Disney has such a huge catalog that it can outweigh its original content for a while. But in the end, their original content is going to have to start rivaling the big boys out there with Netflix and Amazon, which their catalogs for original stuff is vast and diverse. And the fact that Netflix has access to a lot of international markets, so you have Korean dramas, Japanese, now you're getting African content. Disney's going to have to start picking up on that original content.
I don't think Disney's going to have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, they're probably not, but it's just that Netflix came out with a hammer with the partnership with Nickelodeon the same day. So I think Amazon and Netflix still have an upper hand on Disney because of the original content, because most people, say like me, can only live on that nostalgia for so long until you want something new. You want something
You also
fresh,
realize
you want something
you also realize Disney can leverage their movie releases.
Yeah.
To once you go through the initial shopping of digital release, they can leverage all that stuff showing up on their platform first.
Yeah.
So.
And the one plus with Disney Plus is the price point and that bundle package.
Oh yeah, which I did convert over to the bundle. I just have to figure out if ESPN Plus is really going to be all that interesting for me.
For sports fanatics out there like me, yeah.
Well, you're right. I'm not a sports person. I'm not.
But they do have some good original shows if you look through the list.
Yes. Well, then there's...
Go away, Saladin.
Then there's
Hey,
Hulu.
It doesn't have NASCAR. Well, it does have NASCAR.
It does have NASCAR.
Well, I might get it then. Never mind. I
Rewind.
take that back.
Thumbs up.
It's a thumbs and a sideways.
Who's cheating who now?
But yeah, I think
Exactly.
I think in the long run, Disney Plus, all the streaming services it's going to turn into not as a fight, but as like a complement to each other, because you're going to be like, oh, what do they got here? What do they got here? What do they got here? Because once one group starts something, it's going to start another, evolution of series and content. So you have Netflix experimented with this and that, and then Disney Plus experimented with this and that. So when you have like big directors like Michael Bay and Martin Scorsese, putting their stuff on Netflix, Disney will bring out their own directors to bring out their original content. So it's just going to outweigh with a positive for the audience out there.
Gotcha. Can't think of anything else really to kind of go into. I mean, it was nice watching the Pirates franchise from beginning to end.
Did you check out the Jeff Goldblum show?
No, I haven't done that. You've watched it. Tell me about it.
Oh yeah, it was very interesting. So it's basically Jeff Goldblum's take on things in life. So the first two episodes, the first episode was about sneakers, and it goes into the world of sneakers. Did you know that there is a variation of a Comic-Con for sneakers? It's called Sneakers Con.
No, that doesn't surprise me at all.
It was very fascinating. It felt like I was they were just...
Did you see a cameo of the Jesus shoes?
No. But somebody did drop $35,000 on a collection of shoes.
Okay, what was cool about this collection?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I did it off camera.
35,000.
35,000. Second episode was about ice cream. So it's just from the first two episodes, I can just see where Jeff Goldblum's going. So he's going to pick topics, whatever fits his narrative, and goes weird.
Okay.
But it plays in a vein like a Anthony Bourdain or Zimmerman's travels around the world for food.
This should be fun.
Just more with creative ideas.
Alrighty.
And don't forget, The Simpsons are on Disney Plus, all 30 seasons.
And even that's out of order.
There was that. They had that article and they tried to explain it, and it failed miserably because they screwed themselves over in the end.
Well, to be fair, they did not expect to have 10 million on just the domestic release.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they released it on Tuesday just within the U.S., and they had 10 million peeps subscribing for the first day, and then the following day they went worldwide.
Really? Well, not expecting that.
I think they lowballed it, and they paid for it.
Lowball? Really?
Yes.
10 million is a low ball?
No, they expected less.
They expected less.
They expected less.
I'm saying them lowballing.
You're right, considering we're talking about when we think about Disney and look at the parks, there's the Imagineering crew that's all they do is think this stuff up and figure out how to optimize, and listening to people talk about how the apps and everything, it's like what's the best way I can get in this line to catch this ride and then that ride, and how do I get from one end of the park to the other without wasting a lot of time? Yeah. So I tried to play both sides here. Fair and balanced.
Yeah, fair and balanced. But, Disney will work it out.
Oh, yeah.
I just, I'm looking forward to those Marvel shows.
Oh, yes. I can't wait for those. I think with that, we're ready to get into the real fun.
Odds
and ends.
Shadoosh.
So, Odds and Ends is a collection of stories that we find on the internet that are just odd. And we talk about what's our reactions and opinions. This is supposed to be kind of a rapid fire thing. And as usual, I get a whole list of articles from the rest of the people at this table.
I started the chain because I sent out articles and then everybody else followed.
And then I did that creative groups where everybody could send the articles, and then I picked through them to find some. And there were a lot. There are definitely a few honorable mentions. But we're going to go and kick into we got 4 we're going to talk about. That's probably the lowest number I've done in a while.
Well, the show was taken up by a lot of other stuff.
That's true. So, we're being fair.
Beer check.
Oh, no. Shave it off.
No, it's Shave November.
Yeah.
No. Princes shave. Kings have beards.
You gotta keep it clean.
Oh my god. Oh.
Score! I got a double face palm. Score!
Oh my god. Okay, continue on. Odds and ends.
Odds and ends.
Odds and ends. Here we go.
Let's begin the end.
First one. Teenagers spent almost 2 years making a unicorn Gundam out of cardboard.
Yes, as reported on Kotaku, he went and built a life-sized Gundam.
And this happens to be the RX Tac 0 Unicorn Gundam.
And this thing looks legit and awesome. I would buy this.
And the thing is, they built it for their school's cultural arts festival. And so, yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's 2 things that this highlights. It highlights the effect that anime has around the world, and 2 shows that anime can bring to life true creativity.
Yes. All right. Our next one. Space hotel with artificial gravity will be in orbit by 2025.
Yes, this was an article linked. I was a little curious. I was like, But it is reported on bigthink.com.
So basically we're talking about the Von Braun space station. The Gateway Foundation is building a space hotel based on the concepts of Nazi and American rocket scientist Wiener von Braun.
Oh, yeah. And, quote, they plan to have the station visited by about 100 tours per week by 2025, end quote.
So not only is it going to be up and functional, but then we're going to have a steady flow of guests.
Hopefully they do a test run before they just send a bunch of people up there and then it turns into aliens or something.
That is their test run.
Well, the interesting thing is the company is planning to assemble this thing in orbit using drones and robots.
I wonder who's going to be funding that.
Well, I'm like everything else. It seems the private sector is making a lot of end runs with space travel now.
Everything everything from SpaceX to Virgin. It seems to be the route, privatizing space travel.
All right. Okay, so for our next one, we're going to bring it back down to Earth. And funny you mentioned Skynet, Saladin. But Chuck E. Cheese says goodbye to tokens and their animatronic robot band in over 80 locations.
Oh, yes, as reported on people.com, they're doing away with all the stuff we grew up seeing and moving on to new things.
And part of this is because they're actually going through and revitalizing their whole brand and their branding. And some of the things they're talking about replacing the animatronic band with an interactive dance floor that supposedly, as the kids are dancing on it, it lights up based on the pressure of their feet. So that actually sounds kind of cool.
So based on this article, they're changing up the look, a new logo, a color scheme, and replacing tokens with load-up passes or wristbands.
Yes, this concept is supposed to be kind of a time-based model versus a coin-based model, where it's like the card or the wristband will allow you to play unlimited many times as you want within a certain time period. So that could be interesting.
Oh yeah, and as quoted by the CEO of Chuck E. Cheese, he said he has that there's strong hypothesis that the robot performers will be replaced with live performers across the country at some point in the future.
Yeah, I don't think it really kind of works away from the animatronics and, the inspiration of certain cult games because of those animatronics.
Yeah, it is memory. When I think Chuck E. Cheese, I think those animatronics, but,
Looks creepy.
But going away from...
Hence Five Nights at Freddy's.
Going... Oh...
Oh, yes. That would be fun.
His response? Yep.
All right, and our last odds and ends story, and this is something that came across our wire. That's Build-A-Bear has released a Joker Bear.
Oh, yes. They have released a straight Joker Bear available to the public.
Oh, there's a catch,
wait,
though.
There's a catch.
There's a catch. It's, one, they very nonchalantly announced it via Instagram that there's going to be this Joker Bear. It's currently an online exclusive, which means you cannot go to your local store and get one. You have to buy it online, and the only option that is sold is a bundle which is the bear, the outfit, and the shoes. And the outfit is very much that purple Joker suit, complete with the flower. Now, the other cool thing was I was looking this up is when you look at it, it's like, because when I told my wife that this had come out, she's like, "Ooh, is there a Harley bear?" And it's like, I don't know. And then I looked, it's like, yeah, there's a Harley bear and there's a Batman bear. So yeah, Build-A-Bear is really kind of cashing in on the whole Joker thing. So, but what are your thoughts on the Joker Bear?
I think it's pretty cool. It just gives the light that Build-A-Bear likes to diverse pop culture, because at one point they were doing Deadpool.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Deadpool Bear.
Yes, I missed out on that. So sad. So sad.
I'm sure. Alrighty. Well, I think that about covers it for us.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll go ahead and do our contact info and then transition over if you happen to be or plan to be in the future a supporter via Patreon. And stay tuned because we're going to shift into our Patreon only section where we interact with anybody through Discord who's been chatting with us and signed up via there, and kind of have some let our hair down and ease out of this because, it's a lot of hype to do this. But let's start off with our contact info. So, you want to lead off this time, Rye?
Oh, yeah. You can follow me at Instagram at EP25. Message me, like me, send me a friend request.
Alrighty. You can find me at Scuba on Twitter. The studio, Scuba Studio, has a Facebook page. You can go to facebook.com/Scuba Studio. Give us a like and check out the Scuba and Rye Facebook group where we post show notes and have discussions about the various stories that are in odds and ends and what else happened on the show.
Which has been linked into the chats.
Yes. Let's see. If, as alluded to earlier, if you like the show or want to help support the show and help us grow and expand and do more cool things like standardize our equipment, you can do that via patreon.com/Scuba's Studio. Patreon members get early access to all the content we create, as well as exclusive versions of some of our content, like being able to interact with us in the live shows. You can send us an email with feedback, suggestions, and ideas at scubastudio@gmail.com. And also we have our YouTube channel, Scuba Studio on YouTube. Go there to check us out and see the videos we post. Some of the newer stuff that isn't going to be quite in a podcast format will be posted there. And, of course, Scuba and the Rye podcast, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, and Spotify, as well as via the Podbean app and CastBox.
Yes, sir.
Did I cover everything?
Yep.
I did? Sweet. All right, with that, let's dance this over and get back to the bar. No. Drink responsibly. This is a family show.
Orange drink. Peace.